Hey there, folks. Welcome to a quick note. Today we're delving into a haunting tale that echoes through the waters off the Isle of Wight, the tragic story of the HMS Eurydice. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to stay updated on our quick explorations into fascinating stories. Now let's uncover the mysteries of the Eurydice. Back in 1878, little 3-year-old Winston Churchill had quite the view with his nurse. They were watching the HMS Eurydice go down near England's Isle of Wight. It was a real tragedy, taking the lives of over 300 guys, making it one of the worst peacetime naval disasters in British history. The story goes that even now, more than 100 years later, people say they spot the ghostly ship sailing off the coast. This ship, originally a Royal Navy corvette with 26 guns, was made in Portsmouth in the 1840s. In 1877, they turned it into a training ship for the sea. Captain Marcus Hare took it on a trip through the West Indies for 3 months. But on the way back from Bermuda to Portsmouth, things went bad. A weird snowstorm hit near the Isle of Wight in Sandown Bay. Witnesses say the ship vanished into the storm, and strangely, the gun ports were open when they should have been closed. The storm made it impossible to see anything, and Eurydice got blown onto her side, starting to sink as water rushed through those open gun ports. As the Eurydice went down, most of the crew got stuck inside. Those who tried to swim to safety got pulled under with the sinking ship. There were 2 other boats in the area when the storm hit, a fishing boat and the schooner Emma. Both of them did the right thing by steering clear of the storm, but the Eurydice decided to keep going, even though the sailing conditions were impossible. It's a mystery why Captain Hare chose to sail into the storm, but it turned out to be a tragic mistake. Once the storm passed, the Emma sailed over to the wreckage to rescue survivors. Sadly, only 5 people were pulled from the freezing water. Out of those, only 2 guys, Sidney Fletcher from Plymouth and Benjamin Cuddaford from Bristol, made it. The Times mentioned that Cuddaford, a strong swimmer, heard his fellow sailors crying for help as they drowned. He tried to save 2 of them, but ended up with 4 hanging onto him. To avoid drowning himself, he had to push them away. Both Cuddaford and Fletcher got treated by a Dr. Williamson at Bonchurch's Cottage Hospital and probably got better after some time. On March 26, 1878, Charles Beresford, who was a big deal in the Royal Navy, wrote a letter to the Times. He was worried about the future use of training ships at sea. See, the Eurydice had a really skilled captain and officers who were chosen because they knew their stuff. Their job was to teach young folks the ropes of being sailors. The sad thing is, the Eurydice disaster was a big blow to the Navy's training system. It was the first ship used to train young sailors at sea, and losing it, along with its awesome young crew, could make people think twice about this important way of teaching and training our sailors for the fleet. Charles Beresford to the editor of The Times, 26 March 1878. Interestingly, the ship that took the place of the ill-fated HMS Eurydice, the HMS Atalanta, formerly known as HMS Juno, faced its own tragic fate 2 years later in 1880. Unfortunately, both the ship and its crew vanished at sea. It's believed that Atalanta ran into a deadly storm somewhere in the Atlantic between February 1216, shortly after leaving the Royal Naval Dockyard in Bermuda. The loss of Atalanta drew criticism for having a shortage of experienced sailors, with only 11 able seamen on board among 300 young trainees. Some folks even linked the disappearance to the mysterious Bermuda Triangle. The return of the HMS Eurydice? Out of tragedies often come ghost stories, and the sinking of the HMS Eurydice is no different. Since it went down, people claim to have seen the ghostly Royal Navy corvette sailing near Dunnose, along the coast of Shanklin and Sandown. The spooky part is that the ship supposedly disappears into the mist of the English Channel before anyone can get close. While many think these sightings are just due to superstition or weird lighting, 2 specific encounters have made even skeptics raise an eyebrow. Back in the 1930s, Commander Lipscomb of a Royal Navy submarine reportedly saw the HMS Eurydice pop up in front of his vessel near the island's coast. He freaked out and managed to dodge the ship, only for it to vanish into thin air. Another interesting sighting happened on October 17, 1998, when Prince Edward, the Queen's youngest kid, said he saw the ghost ship while filming Crown and Country on the Isle of Wight. Even his film crew claimed to have spotted the Eurydice and supposedly caught it on tape. However, the whereabouts of this footage remain unknown if it even exists. remembering the lives lost. Finding the bodies of the Eurydice's crew took a while due to the high number of casualties. Some were discovered when the ship was finally brought up, while others started washing ashore along the east coast of the island. Those found on land were laid to rest in either Shanklin Cemetery or Christchurch in Sandown, depending on where they were found. 4 more bodies, identified as David Bennett and Alfred Barnes among them, rest in peace in Rottingdean St. Margaret's churchyard. The bodies recovered during the ship's salvage operation found their final resting place at Haslar Royal Naval Cemetery in Gosport. It's not clear if all the deceased sailors were found, and not every body may have been properly identified. Given the months some spent underwater, it's likely that quite a few were buried without a name. Various memorials for the Eurydice were set up on and off the Isle of Wight. There's one in Shanklin Cemetery, another at Christchurch in Sandown, and one at Haslar Cemetery in Gosport on the mainland. St. Anne's Church in Portsmouth has a memorial listing the names of the Eurydice's crew, serving as a solemn reminder of the many young lives lost on that fateful day. So, if you find yourself on the Isle of Wight and happen to be one of the fortunate ones to catch a glimpse of the ghostly ship on the horizon, take a moment to reflect on the young, spectral crew of the Eurydice. They met their end on one of the darkest days in British naval history. And there you have it, the eerie and poignant story of the HMS Eurydice. If you found this quick dive into history intriguing, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more bite-sized tales on A Quick Note. Until next time, stay curious.